Andy and her boyfriend Adam were both on the cross-country team. They both had the same race pace and ended up running exactly next to each other every day. Andy developed a crush on him, but despite being right next to each other, Andy was too nervous to speak to him. Eventually, Adam said hi. Once they started talking, they realized they had a lot in common and became really good friends. When the cross-country season ended, Andy was afraid she would never talk to him again because they were in different grades. But then they both ended up playing the lead roles in the school musical Grease. Adam said he didn't have the guts to ask Andy out for months, but he eventually did.
When Slap Tam was 10 years old, he and his younger brother got their hooves on a small bow and arrow. Naturally, they went out shooting the arrow at whatever they could find. One of them soon had the brilliant idea to shoot the arrow up into the sky to see how high they could get it. As they lined up their shot, Slap Tam's 3-year-old brother came outside to see what they were doing. The arrow launched up into the air and came soaring back down. It landed just 3 inches from Slap Tam's baby brother. If the wind had carried it just a little further, it would have hit him straight in the top of his head and killed him instantly. Slap Tam decided to stop after that. He still hasn't told his mother to this day. Number 4 was submitted by Ben Mack's mother. She says, "Fuck you, Ben Mack, you nearly killed your brother, you can't." No, I'm kidding. Let's go with the real number 4 real quick, dude.
When he was a kid, Emoji had a beautiful puppy named Skeeter. He was pure and innocent and so cuddly. One day, Emoji ran home from school because he couldn't wait to see his furry little best friend. Unfortunately, Skeeter had decided to relieve himself on the neighbor's front lawn. So instead of making a complaint, the neighbor, who was a salty old kook, took out his gun and shot Emoji's dog. It died there on his lawn. Needless to say, Emoji was distraught and never forgave the horrible old man.
Slap Tam once set up a secret camera in his house because he wanted to see what his dog does when nobody's home. He was watching the live footage from his laptop when he noticed something weird. In the video, his dog was whimpering in the corner. He was trying to figure out what he was scared of when a figure walked past the camera. Nobody was supposed to be in his house. The figure appeared a few more times before disappearing. When Slap Tam got home that night, he didn't find anyone in his house. In fact, the only thing that was missing was his toothbrush.
Spincess has a huge problem with shaking her foot. She'll either be anxious or just can't sit still. What she will do is she will cross her right leg over her left leg and it'll go frickin' crazy, man. It'll shake like a tree. Sometimes she hits the chair or the table leg, making noise. The majority of her friends are either used to it or they try to tell her to stop, please, by gently putting her foot on the ground. As for everyone else, shut the heck up and stop tapping your frickin' foot. Similar reactions come from her mother. Her father just says it's energy being expelled. As long as there's no noise, he's fine.
Sid was working as a TV repairman when he got called to the back to check on an old TV that was having some issues. Sid checked it out, ran some tests, and even asked some of the other repairmen with more experience about the unusual problem. He found out that a part called the flyback transformer had failed for good. Unfortunately, the flyback transformer is a vital part which has to be the exact same model and it's a rare part. So with the set being discontinued for 15 years, it was pretty much impossible to find the part and fix the television. Sid told the people all of this and told them the set was done for, but they kept asking Sid to come later and just keep trying to fix their 15-year-old TV with discontinued parts. Eventually, Sid just had to walk away.
Ladybot's older brother is the coolest sibling ever. One time he and his buddies joined Ladybot and her friend for lunch. It was going all well until Ladybot gave her female friend a super close hug and shared some food with her. Her brother's friend was a bit homophobic, so he made some mean jokes about Ladybot's sexuality. Ladybot told him that she liked girls and the guy licked his lips and said he would be happy to change her mind. Ladybot's brother immediately stepped in. He told his friend to shut up and get the hell out. And his friend was walking away. Ladybot's brother shouted, "Not only can my sister kick your ass, but she'll screw your woman too."
After a year of dating, Tola broke up with his girlfriend. Unfortunately, she didn't take it very well. She decided to get revenge and tried to vandalize Tolop's car with a sledgehammer. Unfortunately, Tulip's car was in the shop, so he had to borrow his good friend's motorcycle, and said friend happened to be a Hells Angels member. She saw Tulip get off the bike, waited a few minutes, and started going to town on it. She destroyed the gas tank, fenders, motors, and lights on it. Afterwards, Tulip's friend came by with a newly repaired car, ready to pick up his bike. When he saw the bike, he was obviously pissed. They started arguing inside of Tulip's house when all of a sudden they heard noises coming from outside. There they found Tulip's ex going to town on his newly repaired car with the same sledgehammer. She was arrested and now lives in hiding from a huge biker club. In 4th grade, Sid had a crush on a girl. One day at recess, he handed her a drawing he did of her as a princess, which she thought was very impressive. He said nervously,
I think you're the princess of this town.
then he corrected himself by saying,
Even though this is a democratic country, I guess you could be the president, but only boys can do that.
then he covered his mouth and blushed. He apologized, but his crush just laughed. They ended up dating during the 5th and 6th grade, but the relationship ended when she had to move away.
When Gergak was in 4th grade, a pretty unfortunate thing happened to him while he was at school. He was walking down a crowded hallway during recess, and 2 of his teachers were standing there talking to each other. Just as he walked by them, he had a horrible feeling in his face, and suddenly he let out a very loud sneeze, followed by a thunderous fart. Everyone stopped to look at him, too shocked to even laugh. Thankfully, one of his friends whispered, bless you? And he kept walking. To this day, he can't look those teachers in the eye. When Emoji was in college, she would take the city bus to and from work. She was sitting in a seat, forgot her headphones that day, so she couldn't help but overhear their conversation. The guy in the group said something about how he had been molested by his grandfather. The girls didn't take him seriously, saying it couldn't be true because he wouldn't be able to talk about it so easily. That's when he uttered the phrase, "Oh, don't worry, I got over it. Turns out the secret is that you rape other people." Emoji had to spend another 40 minutes on a crowded bus next to that guy after he said that.
Most unprofessional thing Helbin ever experienced was when he was 10 and was at the dollar store with his dad. They were at the checkout line behind a fat woman who was buying a bag of powdered donuts. There was a problem with the cash register, so it had to buffer, and the lady said it would take about 7 minutes to do its thing. The fat woman complained a lot, so the cashier openly said, "It's not my fault you're a big fat ass who can't go 5 minutes without donuts." Helbin and his dad, being the horrible people they are, laughed so hard that it hurt, and the fat lady stormed out. They still laugh about it. God, that's so mean.
Gooby was hungry one morning and felt lazy. She wanted hard-boiled eggs but didn't feel like boiling water, so she put a whole bunch of eggs in the microwave. Gooby put 5 raw eggs in for 6 minutes. She left, but then she started hearing pops. Gooby came back to check on the eggs and found that eggy slimy stuff was all over the fucking microwave. Gooby learned a valuable lesson. Microwaves don't like eggs.
One afternoon, Pandora was playing catch with a friend in a local park when the ball rolled into some bushes. As Pandora searched for the ball, she stumbled upon a huge homeless community. This was the first time Pandora had ever seen homeless people, and she was terrified. When a man came up to her, she froze, afraid he might hurt her. Instead, the man looked at Pandora and started lecturing her on why she needed to stay in school. This smelly man's advice stayed with Pandora for her whole life. It's part of the reason she now has such a great education.
When Zaraganba was in the 8th grade, he was secretly in love with a girl in his class. They spoke every night on the phone. One night, he decided it was time to man up and tell her how he felt, so he called her and waited. The second he heard someone answer, Zaraganba blurted out,
I love you. I've always loved you.
He didn't hear anything for a few seconds. Then an old man with a deep voice said, sorry, Sonny, you've called the wrong number. Zaraganba later found out his crush got a new number and gave her old SIM card to a relative. He really wished he'd told him that before he declared his love to some random old guy.
Derek was 7 when his parents got a different babysitter since his usual one was sick with the flu. The new babysitter did a good job. Being a big Star Wars fan, she brought a stormtrooper costume, which Derek thought was cool. That is, until after dinner when she put it on, went outside, stood on the roof, and yelled, "I'm a Jedi!" She said it over and over until she slipped and fell off the roof, breaking both of her legs.
Melissa's worst teacher ever was Mrs. Brenda. She had her for both math and English language arts. One day during a test, a kid was making weird anime noises and acting like a weeaboo, striking weird poses. Melissa calmly said, "Shh," and in return, the teacher put her on detention for talking. Another time, Mrs. Brenda was explaining something incorrectly in math class, giving all of the students false information. Melissa told the class the correct way to do the algorithm, which was for 2 grades higher than hers. Her teacher was furious, but put Melissa in detention for saving her butt and teaching the class better than she could.
When Spinal Palm was 17, he and his friends went to a flea market called Trader's Village. This place had a lot of illegal citizens selling their wares. While they were looking around, Spinal Palm's friend dared Spinal Palm to run down the aisles yelling, "La migra! La migra!" Spinal Palm, just like me, had no idea what this meant, but agreed to do it for $20. As he ran down the aisles screaming,
La migra, la migra!
Spinal Palm noticed the people at the market were starting to panic. They were screaming and shouting and scrambling to close their stalls and get out. Eventually, the cops came and arrested Spinal Palm for inciting a riot. It turned out that La migra meant immigration, so the people thought they were getting deported. The cops told Spinal Palm he was very irresponsible and warned him he could have gotten shot. His parents were furious, but hey, at least he got his $20.
Tolop had horrid neighbors who lived in 2 apartments. His neighbors across the hall were just plain straight from hell. They blasted music every 3 weeks, and Tolop was the only one in the entire building with the nuts to call the police. The neighbors blamed him for it, even though it could have been anyone in the whole damn building who made the call. They were yelling at his door, thrashing into it, and laughing at it. That poor door.
When Gergak was young and stupid, he was obsessed with edgy Jewish jokes. One time, while hanging out with his neighbor, he told this joke. What's the difference between a Jew and a bullet? The bullet comes out of the chamber. Gergak thought this was hilarious until he later found out his neighbor was actually Jewish. This neighbor now goes out of his way to avoid Gergak.
When Sweet Commander was in 2nd grade, he accidentally pooped his pants when he was in class, which was pretty embarrassing. He tried to cover it up, but the smell was so bad that the class needed to evacuate the classroom. His teacher took him to the school's janitor to wash him clean, and for some inexplicable reason, the janitor washed him in a public area where literally everyone could see him. 2 of his classmates saw him and started laughing and teasing Sweet Commando about his wiener, which was on show to the world. He never lived that moment down.
One time when Melissa was 9, she went camping with her family and close family friends. And after they finished making the tents, they decided to take a walk through the forest. When they got back, there were 2 raccoons in a friend's tent. It took about an hour to get the 2 raccoons out. At the end, Melissa tried to tell a joke, but instead of saying,
"That was pretty intense,"
she said,
"That was some great incest."
Almost everybody laughed, but her mom told her that once they got back home, she was grounded. However, Melissa's mom forgot to ground her. When Honeybits' little sister had a big birthday party, all of her friends and family came, including a cousin who had a special gift, a piñata made to look like her favorite cartoon character. All the guests were really excited and couldn't wait until it was time to break open the piñata. But when Honeybits' sister started hitting it, she discovered the piñata only had red candy inside. That's when their cousin told Honeybits' sister that the red candy was cartoon blood, and that she had just killed her favorite character. Honeybits' sister was really upset and cried for the rest of her party. She still hasn't forgiven her cousin for making her commit piñata murder. When Ramona was in the 4th grade, she was washing her hands in the bathroom when someone screamed and ran out of the toilet stall. She asked what was wrong and the girl shouted to get away from the handicap stall. Instead of walking away, like a normal person, she turned around and saw a pure white ghost with no legs below her knees. Her hair was up in a high bun, and she had a single drop of blood dripping from her mouth. Oh, and she also had no eyes. Ramona screamed, and both of the students ran as far away from the bathrooms as they could possibly run.
Andy was at the park with her friend, and while they were walking, her friend noticed her crush, Adam, walking towards them looking at his phone. Her friend said this, "This is your chance! Go talk to him!" Andy was so nervous, but eventually gained enough courage to start talking to him. He asked her, "Hey, aren't you that girl in my second period class?" And instead of saying, "Yes, I am," Andy actually said, "Yes, I'm dead." She was so embarrassed and heard her friend behind her laughing. She apologized, and thankfully he wasn't creeped out at all, and they just laughed it off.
Pringle and his parents went to the store to buy a skateboard one day. As soon as he found a suitable skateboard, Pringle and his parents walked up to the cashier to pay for it. On the way, his mom stopped to look at a vase while his dad rushed to the toilet. While his mom was paying for the skateboard, they heard the biggest fart ever! It was so loud that the cashier thought Pringle had farted. Pringle just looked forward blankly, not saying a word. Even though that was the last time he ever went to that store, Pringle still got a skateboard.
In 4th grade, Honeybits and her classmates were taking a test when all of a sudden a man came running down the hall shouting, "Give me some hot dogs or you die, kids!" He was right behind their door looking through the window. Honeybits let out a scream so loud that the man started banging on the door. Then the principal said that there was a code red and to lock all the doors. The doors were not locked in time, and the man opened the door with a gun saying, "Get the hot dogs!" Honeybits screamed, "We don't have hot dogs, so leave us alone!" He looked at her with a mean, drunk face, pointing the gun at her. The man said, "What did you say, young lady?" The police came when he was about to shoot, but before he went out of the room, he yelled, "I will get you one day, young lady." That was the last time she ever saw that man.
One time, to impress his crush, Elvin took her and her friends to the movie theater. One of them didn't have any money to get in, so he said,
Follow my lead.
While giving his ticket to the ticket lady, he pretended to have his pants fall off, and then tripped. As he lay on the ground with his pants off, the girl walked past the lady without her even noticing because most of the people were staring at Helbin. He was hoping that by getting his crush's friend into the movie, she would notice and think it was cool. Helbin also just wanted to take his pants off. To this day, it's still one of his favorite things to do in public to get reactions.
When Nixium was younger, he and his friends got together to prank call a bunch of pizza places. He pretended he was throwing a party and made up totally elaborate pizza orders. Then when the person on the line asked for a delivery address, Nixium would shout, "Nowhere!" and hang up. They did this a bunch of times, and then Nixium's phone started ringing. It was the police calling. Nixium knew his parents would kill him if they found out, so he put on a really deep voice and pretended to be his father. The cop explained that there'd been prank calls coming from this number, and Nixium acted like a shocked parent. He held the phone away and pretended to yell at his son. Pretty soon he was putting on two voices to play two separate roles, the father and the son. He acted out this huge argument that ended with the father grounding his son. When it was over, Nixium got back on the line to apologize to the police officer. The police officer accepted Nixium's Oscar-worthy performance. He said it was good to see parents still disciplining their kids and dropped all charges.
Emoji went to a Catholic school, and in first grade she had a teacher who she suspected might actually be a witch. She had brought a new pencil box filled with everything she needed for the year, and on the second day the teacher took it and threw it out because she was using a colored pencil on an assignment. The horror. A few days later she made Emoji stand in the trash when she asked for a pencil from her friend Pandora. And get this, every year she actually dressed like a witch for Halloween. Coincidence? Nah, confirmed witch.
When Pringle was 11, his parents would come and pick him up after school. But one day, they were both really busy at work, so they told him he'd have to walk home that day. Pringle was really angry about this, but since he had no other choice, he just started walking. Along the way, he found an old broken bike laying in the bushes. It was missing a wheel, a saddle, and its paint was all scratched up. Pringle decided to take some of his anger out on this piece of crap bike, so he gave it a kick. But at that moment, a police officer was walking by and saw him. The officer assumed Pringle was the one who had trashed the bike, so he arrested him for vandalism. It was not a good day for Pringle.
Just out of high school, Doopy went to a friend's party in her family's 4th floor condo. Her parents were away, so the booze was plentiful. At one point during the party, a drunk Doopy went outside and wandered around the complex to the side with balconies. She thought it would be cool to climb back up using the railings of the balconies and surprise everyone by entering through the balcony doors. Well, Doopy made it, and everyone was impressed. Now, whenever she drives by those condos, she shudders to think how close to death she came that night.
When Dolan was 12 years old, he was punished for taking his mom's money without asking. It was winter, so it wasn't hard for his parents to find a way to make him pay. His weird punishment was that he was forced to go outside in the snow without any pants, in below zero temperatures, and roll around in the snow for a whole hour. When he came inside, he was freezing cold, and his butt cheeks were the color of a bright red tomato. He immediately grabbed some pants and a blanket to warm his frozen backside. He learned his lesson after that.
When she was 9, Andy and her 2-year-old sister were left in a neighbor's apartment while their mom and grandma ran some errands. The babysitter sat Andy in front of the TV, where she watched a magic show. Andy was engulfed in the show when the babysitter told her something, and even though she didn't know what the babysitter had said, nodded and agreed with her. She continued to watch the magic show as the babysitter went into the other room. About an hour or so later, Andy's mom burst through the door, pissed. Apparently, Andy's 2-year-old sister had crawled out the open door, up the stairs, and down the driveway. Her mom and grandma ended up finding her crawling in the middle of the road. It turned out that the babysitter had told Andy to watch her sister. She even tried to blame Andy for what had happened. The woman was responsible for watching them, yet left the door wide open and ignored them. Andy's mom never left her and her sister with that woman ever again.
One time, Pandora went to a party at her friend's place. Everyone there was having a great time, dancing, playing games, and eating pizza. But when they got down to the last slice of pizza, things changed. Pandora watched as 3 of her friends had the dumbest fight anyone's ever had. Each of them wanted the last piece. At first, they were just joking around, but pretty soon the fight turned real. Pandora's friends pushed each other, called each other names, and ripped out each other's hair. The fight was so crazy that their precious last piece of pizza got pulled apart in all the chaos. No one wanted it anymore after that, and the whole party was ruined.
Gergak once went to a very memorable college party. At the party, there was a creepy guy pretending to be passed out on the floor so he could look up the girls' skirts. He got away with this until Pandora noticed what he was up to. First, she stood over his face and seduced him with a little bump and grind. After a minute or two, she took off her panties and started squatting lower and lower. Soon, her crotch was only inches away from his face. Creepy guy thought he died and gone to heaven, until Pandora proceeded to shit all over his face. The guy was so shocked that it took him 5 seconds to even react. In that time, Pandora clenched off her big turd and calmly walked to the bathroom to clean up. Gergak never saw a creepy guy at a party ever again.
Melissa was walking by a Starbucks when she saw a crazy homeless man. He was acting as though he had a dog and was holding it by the leash, bent down to pet his invisible dog and gave it an invisible treat. It was really weird for Melissa to see, but then the man walked to a trash can in front of Starbucks, put his hand in the trash, grabbed a cup and started drinking it. Yummy.
One day, Pandora went to her older brother's new place and found something a little odd. She went to put her plate in the dishwasher door and found her brother's secret stash of chips and snacks. Even though he has heaps of cupboards, drawers, and pantry space, he thought it would be best to store snacks in the dishwasher since he never uses it. Pandora also found a drawer full of snacks in his bathroom. When she asked why he had this, her brother said, "In case I get hungry when I'm taking a dump."
When Ghostos was 14, he was looking for his mother so she could sign the permission slip to go on a field trip to a museum. He couldn't find her anywhere around the house until he opened the door to her bedroom. When he peeked his head in to see if she was there, let's just say he was happy that he wasn't wearing his prescription glasses. All he remembered from the incident was that he immediately heard a loud buzzing noise in the outline of his mom's legs, making a McDonald's M on her bed. When she saw him at the door, she yelled at him to get out. Luckily, he got that permission slip signed later that day, but the whole transaction was pretty awkward. When she was younger, Indy Mations was staying at her boyfriend's house and one day decided to have a particularly hot and steamy shower. All of a sudden, her boyfriend's mom opens the bathroom door and casually walks into the bathroom. His mother proceeds to have a full conversation with him while Andy is standing behind the curtain, frozen in fear. His mom stayed in the bathroom for 15 minutes, getting ready to go to work. After they thought she had left, Andy Mation sighed in relief and walked out of the bathroom, totally naked. To her surprise, his dad was standing there in the doorway across the hall. She was completely mortified.